welcome to the Radical Podcast, the podcast where we discuss radical ideas that have the potential to change our world and to change the way we see each other, our society, in a new light, in a new way, because we're kind of trapped in our cultural obsessions, our illusions, our collective illusions. There's tons of collective illusions. I've broken down some of them already, but we've got lots more to go. So, today I'd like to talk about scarcity and abundance. Scarcity and abundance are notions that on the surface make perfect sense. It's what we're taught in economics. It's what we're taught, growing up. There's not enough to go around, right? Some people have more, some people have less, but, that's just the way it goes. Now, the notion of scarcity is explained in economics something like this. It's been a while since I've heard it, but I'll try to represent the intention, if not the actual words. And that is, scarcity exists because getting resources, the things we need, out of the ground, out of the forests, out of the water, is hard. It takes a lot of resources, it takes a lot of energy to mine, to chop down forests, to feed livestock and to house livestock, despite the tiny, tiny, cruel little pens they put them in, to farm. All of these things take enormous resources, enormous amounts of human energy, of animal energy, of just energy. It is a tremendous human accomplishment that we can do it at all. And in that light, that part of the scarcity argument makes perfect sense. Absolutely perfect sense, without a doubt. I do not dispute it for a moment. However, where the scarcity argument breaks down as to why that's the explanation for the world we have today is that we are so bloody wasteful. It doesn't make any sense at all. Think about what happens when you go to the store, a big box store, something like Walmart, and you buy furniture. The journey that furniture probably had to make to get to you is absolutely absurd when you consider that there's probably someone perfectly capable of doing it for you right in your community. That chair or that table or that whatever was probably put together in China. Made of wood that was either brought from Russia, Europe, or Canada, or the United States. So the wood made a huge journey to China from somewhere. And therefore, lands in China, gets assembled into a table or a chair or whatever, gets put on a boat or a train going to a boat back to North America for you to buy, somehow at a discount. The enormous amounts of energy required to move that product make absolutely no sense whatsoever. None. It makes absolutely no sense to expend those resources unless your bottom line is not efficiency, but maximizing profit and reducing cost at every stage of the supply line. But you're not working in the best interests of humanity in that case. You're working in the best interests of the board, the shareholders, the CEO, the president. Scarcity doesn't make any sense, not because it isn't hard to get resources out of the ground, to get the things that we need to live. Scarcity doesn't make any sense because we're not even trying not to be wasteful. We are incredibly wasteful people. Think about the journey your food makes. It's insane. If we want it to be really efficient, every town, every community, every block would have a garden. How that garden was financed or contributed to or worked on, I have no idea. But we would do it. And that garden would grow the crops year-round because we have the technology to do so for the entire community. And if you needed it to be bigger, you add another floor and you build upwards. So we have vertical farms in all of these places. Does that take a lot of energy and a lot of resources and a lot of water? Sure it does. But we can recycle our gray water. Do you see? If we wanted to be efficient, we would be utilizing the technology and the knowledge that we have as humanity. We're not doing that. We're doing things in the least efficient, most profit maximizing way that we can. I know that's not a verb, but I just made it one. We could have abundance if we stopped wasting so much. If we allocated our resources properly, and if we made our communities self-sufficient. Having giant solar power plants power all of California is not exactly logical. But every single community having a power station made up of solar panels and wind turbines and whatever else is appropriate to the environment, that's logical. With battery packs in every home. We're still talking about decentralizing. Have you noticed that? That's from my last podcast. We're still talking about dismantling the control of these things from the hands of the few back into the communities. Giving the tribe back its power. Giving the individuals back their power. Literally and figuratively. We can do things in a much more intelligent way. I have absolute faith that humanity has brilliant people in every corner of the earth. And with 7 billion people on this planet, we absolutely have the mental resources and the collective will to accomplish any sort of transformation we want to apply to this planet. The question is, why will we do it? Will we do it out of fear or love? And who's going to run the show? Will it be us or will it be the few? Will there still be poverty? Well, there will if certain people don't want to give up their resources. If certain people don't want to give up their grasp on things that they don't own to begin with. You might think I'm preaching communism. I'm not. I'm preaching managing things intelligently. Capitalism, as it stands right now in any case, is not an intelligent way of managing resources. It encourages the worst aspects of humanity. Thievery, hoarding, gluttony. Nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. We can see the destructive aspect of it in every corner of the earth, whether it's the arms industry, wasting, absolutely wasting human potential, human energy, raw materials, the raw materials used to make bullets and shell casings and guns. The sheer amount of that is simply wasted. Whether it's wasted on firing ranges, whether it's wasted in war games, or whether it's wasted in the worst way possible, killing people and dying. That's why we have scarcity. Because we don't value things. Alan Watts famously said, if people were really materialists, they would value the things that they had. They would take care of them. They would want them to be of good quality and lasting. We would value each other as material objects, as material creatures. It might not be his exact words, but it's pretty damn close. Scarcity exists because we waste. We don't value what we've got. We don't use it properly. We don't use it intelligently. We could have abundance. There is enough. And there's absolutely enough human energy. Absolutely enough mechanical energy to spread it around. Make sure every community is taken care of and is able to take care of itself. We can do that in so many ways, and we'll be talking about them in many future episodes of the podcast. Scarcity is a lie that we've been told to explain why there are poor people. To explain why people suffer to such a large degree. We put all of the responsibility on poor people. In every single way. We don't really help them. We throw them into a system and we say it's your responsibility to navigate through this system to get help. But you expend so much resources, so much time navigating this system. That's the only thing you have time for. And at the end of the maze, there's just enough to get you by until next time you have to come back and navigate it. In the meantime, you're living in scarcity. And you're told, well, it's because there's not enough to go around. All this is hard. It's expensive. In order to do this, we need you to pay. It's nonsense. Nonsense. It is insanity. 62 people. 62 individuals out of 7 billion individuals own over half the planet's wealth and resources. That is absolute craziness. They don't deserve that. Nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves to own half the planet because it's ours. It flows through every single one of us. You can't own the earth. You have to let go sometime. You can hold on to it for a little bit. It becomes you, and then it leaves you, and it's still you. To get it, you don't need the money that represents it. Scarcity exists because we allow this to persist. Because people say, well, it's always been that way. So? Lots of things were always one way until they weren't. No one had ever gone into space, and then they did. No one had ever seen television, and then they did. No one had ever seen women vote, black people and white people get married legally. No one had ever seen anything until it happened. It's not a good enough answer. It's not an answer at all. It's absolutely terrible. I can't even tolerate it. Scarcity doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to continue. It doesn't have to continue in our lifetimes. We don't have to wait 20 or 30 or years or a century to turn this around. These are all ideas. They're all illusions. Once you change how you look at it and you see that it makes no sense at all, there is not a logical argument in support of the waste and the way that we use the world we live in. There's not a logical argument for for why children starve and bombs get dropped. Why the U.S. military spends more than the next 20-something countries combined, most of whom are their allies. Well, children starve. You can't defend that. No one can. Not if you have a heart, not if you believe that you're one of everyone. We can do better. Scarcity doesn't have to happen. It's a product of human ignorance. But the way to fight ignorance is with ideas. Radical ideas. See what I did there? I'm going to leave it at that because I could really rant about it all day long. You cite many, many examples of waste and many, many examples of why it makes no sense. But I think you get the point. So have the conversation. Talk to people. Talk about crazy, radical ideas that can change the world. And keep talking. Until other people talk too. Research. Have your own crazy, radical ideas. And throw them into the mix. So that we can all share them and talk about them. Radically yours, I'm Ryan McKenna. Have a great night.